Alrighty, I believe we're live. Wait for a couple people to show up here. Welcome, you guys. I'm going to be restarting my podcast every Monday at 8 o'clock. I know the banner says 7, but we're going to be doing 8. Excellent connection. Fantastic. Let's see here. Is this live? Alright, we're going to share this here. Alright. Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another exciting episode of 904 Fishing, the ultimate destination for all things fishing on the intercoastal waterways of Florida, as well as the surf. I am your host, Alex. Today, we're going to be diving headfirst into the exhilarating world of the upcoming Mullet Run, which will be taking part in the next couple months. It's already kind of started. If you've been out on the surf or been out on your kayak, you already know that. But whether you're surf fishing or you're going kayak fishing, we're going to go over some tips and tricks, strategies to help you make the most of this fantastic time of the year to help you get on some more fish, as well as some potentially trophy fish. So let's, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So the first thing that we're going to be looking at is going to be the tactics and like what all the Mullet Run is about. The Mullet Run is a natural phenomenon. It's a yearly thing that happens when massive schools of mullet migrate along the coastline from north to south. On the East Coast, all the way from Florida to Carolinas, Georgia, all that jazz. They're pursued by tons and tons of predators. I mean, you've got snook, tarpon, redfish, big trout, bluefish, all kinds of stuff that chase them. It's just a feeding frenzy out there that every angler, I think, should, experience at least once in their lifetime, if not multiple times. So, the first thing we're going to do is talk about gearing up for the surf. What do you need when it comes to the surf to take the most advantage of the Mullet Run? And if surf fishing is your choice, Mullet Run is definitely a great time for you to get out there and a great time for you to really get in the water and catch some really nice sized fish. So we're going to go over some tips and tricks for you to make sure that you make the most of all of the Mullet Run shenanigans that goes on. The first one is going to be rig. What kind of rig or setup tackle do you want to use when you're out in the Mullet Run, when you're out fishing it? Like any other kind of surf fishing, you definitely want to take advantage of as long a rod as you can. 10 foot is minimum typically when I suggest people to start surf fishing, and this is if you're going to be fishing with live mullet or dead mullet, which I would recommend, especially during the Mullet Run. That's what everybody's feeding on. That's what they want. They don't want lures. They don't want any kinds of stuff like that. You can catch them on stuff like that, but 9 times out of 10, that fish is going to want either a live mullet or a chunk mullet that they think has been already shredded by another predator, and they're just picking up the scraps. So definitely want to recommend try to use as fresh a bait as possible. A live bait, again, if possible. One of the best rigs that you can use is going to be a fish finder rig. I'll throw one up on the screen right here. So you guys can see the sliding tackle or the sliding weight there. And you got a leader with your hook. This is a great tool to really capitalize on making your bait look as natural as possible. If you set your drag appropriately, then the line will just you'll have your weight sitting down in the sand, and then the line will just take off as the fish bites it, they won't be able to feel any resistance. You'll be able to tighten your drag, set the hook. So definitely highly recommend the fish finder rig. Again, here's a diagram right here for you guys to look at. If you guys are listening, you can just Google fish finder rig. It's a pretty straightforward rig, really not that hard. If you're not going to use a fish finder rig, then I recommend using a sliding sinker rig, which is essentially the same thing. This is more for if you're not fishing in a ton of current, or if you're kind of by yourself. The reason you want to use a fish finder rig if you're on the beach is you can use either pyramid weights or Sputnik weights to really hold your position in the sand. You don't want your line dragging all over the beach. You don't want your line not being able to hold position or be able to accurately tell if it's the tide taking your bait or if it's a fish taking your bait. So you want to try to present it as naturally as possible. And when it comes to that, you want to make sure you hook your mullet, a couple different ways. You can do it, but one of the ones you really want to try to do is you can either go right through the nose and the mouth, or you can hook it just behind the dorsal fin on the back. Not the dorsal fin, I guess the dorsal fin. On the back, you hook it through the back, and then that will let them kind of swim more naturally, more distress really in the water. So that's definitely something to take a look at. So now that you've got your rig, your weight, your rod, any kind of reel, I would recommend a larger reel, somewhere in the 4,000 to 6,000 range when it comes to the mullet run, especially if you're going to be going for those larger predatorial fish, sharks, snook, tarpon, big redfish. They're going to peel a lot of drag, especially sharks. If you're going shark fishing, you need some line on there. My personal preference is mono. Some people prefer braid. 100% up to preference. Each has their ups and downs. It's whatever you decide to do. And then when it comes to bait selection, again, mullet is king. That's all that's in the water. You can fish shrimp, you can fish squid, you can do all kinds of stuff like that. But really, 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 if you're in the surf, you definitely want to make sure you're trying to get as fresh a mullet as you possibly can. If you don't have a cast net, any kind of the bait shop worth their salt is going to have fresh mullet, especially this time of year. If you can't get your hands on some fresh mullet, fresh dead is good. Or if you want to try to do a lure, you want to try to do more of a casting, setup, I would definitely go with a mullet imitating lure. Any kind of swim bait or even a spoon wouldn't do half bad. Kind of imitating the flash of the mullet as they're in the water. So definitely something to remember. And then, it'll boil down to timing. You don't want to go, dead set in the middle of a tide, a slack tide, if you will. You want that tide to be either going out or coming in. And what that means is if, you've got water that's moving, that's good. It's either going to be coming in or it's going to be going out. But regardless of going in or coming out, because some people swear that, the incoming tide is the best to fish, and some people swear that the outgoing tide is the best to fish. But really boils down to the water moving. You want to make sure you have as much water moving as possible. That will help the mullet move, and it will also help the predators pay attention to the mullet that are moving. It kind of fires them up a little bit, especially if you're near an inlet or any kind of intercoastal where the tide really matters. Outside of that, if this is your first time fishing the mullet run, just get out there. Don't try to give too much attention to it. Go out there, throw a line in the water, do your best. If you know how to read the beach a little bit, obviously you want to look for those washouts. Try to look for the sandbars, throw in between them where you'll see the schools of mullet. If you guys haven't seen it, I posted 2-3 videos ago, I posted some drone footage of big pods of mullet that were off the second sandbar on the beach, and that's definitely somewhere you want to be throwing your bait if you want to catch a big shark, a big tarpon. I haven't seen any tarpon yet, but overall, definitely, I've seen sharks, seen plenty of sharks, got plenty of drone footage on that, so definitely something to think about. So that covers most of the surf fishing portion of it. It's pretty straightforward. Get, like I said, just to recap, you want either a fish finder rig or a sliding sinker rig, which is essentially the same thing. And then you want as fresh a bait as you possibly can. If you can't, get live mullet, or you don't have the capabilities of doing live mullet, get fresh dead as fresh as you possibly can. In a pinch, frozen will work, because after all, at the end of the day, it is mullet, but you want to try to get as fresh as you possibly can. If you don't want to do any kind of real bait or live bait, anything like that, then go with the lure. Try to get as realistic lure as you possibly can. Look for that action on the lure. That is something that will help you really sit down and stick and, nail that presentation. Match the hatch. Everyone's heard that. So, the next thing we're going to be doing is the next segment is going to be kayak fishing. So, if you prefer kayak fishing, the Mullet Run can offer you a very unique time of year when it comes to the type of different fish that you can catch, and how to make the most of your fishing experience when it comes to the Mullet Run off of a kayak. So the advantages to a kayak over surf fishing when it comes to the Mullet Run is obviously the unmatched mobility. I mean, you can actually keep up with the schools of mullet. You can continue them. You can follow them. You can keep an eye out for all the different patterns and whatnot. You can actually put eyes on the tarpon or the snook or the redfish or the shark or anything busting on those mullet when it comes to keeping up with them on the intercoastal or even off the beach if that's something that you want to try to tackle as best you can. I would love to get off the beach at some point, but I don't have anybody to go with at this point, so I haven't. But yeah, definitely, the mobility you're going to get, obviously, when you're in a kayak as opposed to just standing on the shore is going to be unmatched. It's not even a question. One of the advantages to being in a kayak as opposed to fishing on the shore is going to be the ability to use topwater lures when it comes to being able to use artificial baits for the Mullet Run. Topwater lures like poppers, walking baits, buzz baits even, very, very effective when it comes to the Mullet Run. The surface commotion that it's going to cause is going to mimic the frenzy and the popping and the scaredness of the mullet that will attract those predator fish, that will attract those things, and it'll help you kind of really narrow down. I know I've seen big tarpon blow up on poppers. I've seen big redfish blow up on poppers. I've seen big trout blow up on poppers. So that's definitely something to think about when you're going out there and when it comes to fishing off the kayak for the Mullet Run. Anywhere in the intercoastal is good. Again, you want to make sure you're looking for as moving water as you possibly can. If you want to get out there and you find a nice curve in the intercoastal where you can beach your kayak, I know I've done a video on that in the past where I beached a kayak and then I was actually able to cast to the opposite shore just across. It was probably 10 yards or so, and we were able to put some live mullet down there, and we were able to hook them in some really nice redfish. So we were able to take home a couple redfish then. This was 5 years ago now, so we were able to keep 2. Now you're only able to keep 1 in Florida, unfortunately. So I can say that when it comes to anchoring your kayak, like let's say you find a nice spot, there's nowhere to beach, there's nowhere to put your kayak, so you just gotta kind of put your kayak where you can find it. Make sure you have some kind of anchor system, whether that be an actual anchor or you have a stakeout pole or a kayak, anchor trolley, something to maintain the position that still gives you a little bit of maneuverability when it comes to kayaking on the intercoastal. But that's, if you find a hot spot, like I mentioned with the beach and whatnot, like if it was high tide and that beach wasn't available, then I would definitely throw out an anchor, hang out and wait. When it comes to fishing off the kayak, one of the things that I stress a lot is safety when it comes to fishing out of your kayak. I think very, very important. You guys always wear a life vest. If you guys see me, I'm out on my kayak, I always wear my life vest. If I'm in the kayak, I'm wearing a life vest, no exceptions. It's very important. You never know what could happen, especially when you're targeting these larger fish, tarpon, shark, anything like that. You can get knocked out. You can, flip out of your boat. Something can go wrong. Your anchor line can get caught up. Things can go wrong. You never know what's going to happen. It's always, always, always good to be ready for worst case scenario. And every time I wear my life vest, whenever I go out fishing, people always ask me like, oh, what are you expecting to go for a dunk? Are you going for a swim or something? I always tell them no, which is why I'm wearing it. So, always prepare for the unexpected. Try to stay visible. If you're in a tight corner and there's a lot of boat traffic in the area, try to make your presence known any way that you possibly can, putting up a flag, anything like that. Now, I will say when it comes to kayaking, one of the disadvantages you have over surf fishing is because you are moving, you can potentially spook the predator fish, or you can potentially spook the schools of mullet. So you want to try to be as stealthy as possible. You want to try to get out there, move as little as possible, just kind of float down, into the intercoastal until you get to your spot. Just kind of go with the flow kind of deal. And if you're using an artificial bait or you're using an artificial lure, definitely try to vary your retrieve so that you're not doing the same thing every time. Because that fish, mullets aren't going to behave the exact same every time. Get out of the house, go fish. What's up, man? Thanks for tuning in. I'm restarting my podcast every Monday. Today was at 8 o'clock. Next week it might be at 7. We'll see. Stay tuned. But yeah, if you're using a mullet lure, especially during the mullet run, a more jerky retrieve, a twitchy retrieve, something that will give that lure a lot of action will definitely help aid in the attraction of a predator fish to that lure, given the time of year, given the fact that it's a mullet run. Any kind of damaged fish, any kind of injured fish is definitely going to pique the interest of predator fish, of the target species. Yeah, we definitely need to go out on the boat, man. My schedule's actually opened up, and once we get into the more holiday time, it's going to close up again. But for right now, I'm kind of open, so definitely need to get out on the boat. Another thing that comes with this time of year with the mullet run is, I know you guys want to catch and keep as many fish as you possibly can, but definitely practice CPR, catch, photograph, release. Unless you plan on harvesting that fish within your legal limits, definitely try to take as quick a photo as you possibly can with that fish. If you're going to, get it back in the water as fast as you possibly can. Especially, if you've got a big slot red and it's, within an inch of upper slot, if you eat redfish, that's kind of, you don't want the super big ones. My golden size when it comes to redfish is the 22 to 24 inch slot. That's a really nice slot whenever it comes to redfish that I enjoy. Same thing with trout. I don't want a super big trout. Those are the breeders. I want to put those back. When it comes to sharks, it's a kind of a different story. I usually only harvest, a couple sharks a year. So if I decide I do want to harvest one, I will, of course, bleed it immediately. And if you are going to harvest a species, definitely bleed it immediately. But definitely, especially when it comes to the mullet run in this time of year, practicing CPR again, catch, photograph, release, that's something that can help, maintain the sustainability throughout the coming years. Very important. Another thing I feel like isn't talked about when it comes to the mullet run is, while it is a very important time and a very fun time and it's a very exciting time of the year, there are a ton of people that are out fishing. There's a ton of people that are out participating in it. And there's no reason to, be cantankerous with your other anglers. Everyone be courteous of one another. Share the waters with all the anglers, kayakers, wildlife, all of it, together. It's something that we can all participate in and enjoy together. So overall, for this year for the mullet run, one of the things that I would like to do is I would like to either catch a tarpon or catch a new trophy redfish. I do have one trophy redfish under my belt. That's this right here. It's the saltwater real big fish. If you guys don't participate in the Catch a Florida Memory program, I would highly recommend it. It's a 100% free program, and you get free stuff out of it. I've gotten buffs out of it. They send you little placards like this. I've gotten a cup that's I use for my coffee most mornings. But definitely one of those things I recommend getting into. Again, completely free. This isn't sponsored or anything. None of this is sponsored. I just enjoy the program. It's really fun. And they got all kinds of giveaways and stuff. They do a giveaway every month. I think they do. Yeah, the prizes vary, but I think I've seen them do combo giveaways, rod and reel giveaways, knife giveaways, buff giveaways, pliers, like all the way from like split ring pliers to $600 combos. I think they just gave away a kayak not too long ago, which was pretty insane to me. But overall, definitely enjoy the kayak or the mullet run as much as you can, whether if you're fishing for the surf or fishing from your kayak. Do your best. Get out there. Wet a line. There's no wrong answers. If you're new to this, just try your best. There's tons of resources out there. I've got playlists for doing the surf fishing as well as the kayak fishing. I'm going to be doing some more kayak fishing now that I actually have the hatches for my kayak that I unfortunately lost when I initially got it. But there you have it. The mullet run is definitely one of those things I think everybody should experience, and every fishing enthusiast should definitely engage with as much as you can every year. And like I said, whether you're going out to the surf or you're taking the kayak out, hopefully these tips and tricks and All the information I've given you here will help maximize your success and your catch ratio during the 2023 mullet run. And as always, stay tuned to 904 Fishing. If you guys haven't, make sure to click that subscribe button and the bell notification so you get notified whenever I go live and whenever I upload a video. Upload a video every Thursday at 7 p.m. and I will be going live next Monday at 7 p.m. So until next time, tight lines, happy fishing, and thank you for